Namaste, aloha, and welcome again. Just this a little bit. My name is Janapati Das, and we are going to continue again with our Krishna book reading from the Krishna book, translated by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada from the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto. And I'd like to offer my respects to my spiritual master, Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and His Divine Grace, whose disappearance was just a few days ago. So we offer our respects to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose mercy and kindness for all humanity is manifested in the fact that he came to the United States and brought Krishna consciousness and the chanting of Krishna's names, as known as being the prime benediction in this day and age, to the West, when so many of his godbrothers did not. And because he was following the instructions of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who instructed him some 50 years previous to when he went to take Krishna consciousness to the Western countries, where the darkness and hedonism existed. And so we are eternally grateful, because now people know about Krishna, the chanting Krishna's names, and had he not come, I would not be here to teach you about Krishna. So we're going to start off with, of course, the chanting of Krishna's names. Please join along. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Vimate Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur Haribo, Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda Haribo, Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya Haribo, Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda Haribo, Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya Haribo, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome again. It's been a few weeks. And we were reading about the descriptions of the Dwarka island that Sri Krishna had actually constructed out in the middle of the ocean to protect his family members and members of the Yadu dynasty from the onslaught of Jarasandha and other demoniac kings, as we Kaliyavana. And so the descriptions, if you remember from the last video, where we were just getting into the descriptions of how wonderful Dwarka was and how heavenly it was because Krishna was present. Almost all the palaces were skyscrapers. In each and every house there were big pots of gold and silver and grain stocked in underground rooms. And there were many golden water pots within the rooms. The bedrooms were bedecked with jewels, and the floor were mosaic pavements of Marakata jewels. The Vishnu deity, worshipped by the descendants of Yadu, was installed in each house in the city. The residential quarters were so arranged that the different castes, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, had their respective quarters. It appears that the caste system was existing even at that time. In the center of the city, there was another residential quarter made specifically for King Ugrasena. This place was the most dazzling of all houses. So when we talk about caste system, we talk about the Varnashram system. Varna. So we have the Kshatriyas, we have the Brahmanas, we have the Vaishyas and the Shudras. So explaining that in English, we had a Kshatriya. There was a Vedic system. It wasn't like nowadays you see it more like a political sort of oppression, and you even have an untouchable caste, which is not originally in the original Varna system. They actually had Kshatriyas. It was a spiritual society structure. You had the Kshatriyas, the Brahmanas. I forgot about the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas were the priestly caste. The qualities of are explained about in many of the scriptures, including the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. The qualities of a Brahmana were the spiritual masters, the spiritual guides for society. And then you had the Kshatriyas, who were warriors and the administrative kings. And traditionally, they were under the support of the Brahmanas. They would actually support the Brahmanas, but the Brahmanas would come and actually teach them how to be spiritual kings. And so in the time of the Vedic civilizations, there were really many great saintly kings. But of course, there were also demoniac kings, and this was why Krishna came in this time at the end of the last Yuga and the beginning of Kali Yuga. You could see that the influence of demoniac kings were coming more and more into, so Krishna came to eliminate that. And then we have the Vaishyas, of course. The Vaishyas were the merchants, the agriculturalists, cowherders. The people of Vrindavan were Vaishyas. And then, of course, the Shudras. The Shudras were the working class, and they actually supported that. And you can see that in society, people have tendencies. They have tendencies to guide, to a certain kind of field. And a lot of times people think we all want to be rich and we all want to be wealthy and we all want to be in this sort of system, but people have more tendencies. So ultimately what happens is there is a working class, the Shudras, who support all the other castes by doing, retail and whatnot. And then you have agriculturalists, and you have the kingly administrators, but the religionists, of course, have sort of fallen. People have kind of pushed that down. So there's really, in this today and age, money is sort of the king. The religious systems of the past are getting thrown out, and so you're seeing a great many problems in society because there's no room for God anymore. It appears that, so we have when the demigods saw that Krishna was constructing a particular city of his own choice, they sent the celebrated Parijata flower of the heavenly planet to be planted in the new city. And they also sent a parliamentary house, Sudharma. The specific quality of this assembly house was that anyone participating in a meeting within it would overcome the influence of invalidity due to old age. The demigod Varuna also presented a horse which was all white except for black ears, which could run at the speed of the mind, which is pretty fast. Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, presented the art of attaining the 8 perfectional stages of material opulences. In this way, all the demigods began to present the respective gifts according to their different capacities. There are 33 million demigods, and each of them is entrusted with a particular department of universal management. So you can see in society that there are a lot of people who worship different kinds of gods, and so there's plenty of room for these demigods to be worshipped. And 33 million, that's a lot, and there are many probably we don't even know of that have different particular roles, some greater, some smaller. So similarly, you have a system like a government that has a bureaucracy that has to run the things, even though there may be a head, a president, or a CEO of a company. They need all these different departments to run things. Now, Krishna, of course, he doesn't need anybody to run the universe for him because he does by his will. But he allows his devotees to take on roles to serve him as administrators and working as demigods. All the demigods took the opportunity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's constructing a city of his own choice to present the respective gifts, making the city of Mathura unique within the universe. This proves that there are undoubtedly innumerable demigods, but none of them are independent of Krishna. Even though we read from the stories many times, the demigods kind of get puffed up, and they think they are independent. And this happens with the material, every living entity in the material world. Sooner or later, our arrogance, for a lot of us, we think, I am so great, I'm so wonderful, I am the supreme controller, and we get undoubtedly splatted on our face many, many times until we figure out, we are not the supreme controller. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna is the supreme master and all others are servants. So all the servants took the opportunity of rendering service to Krishna when he was personally present within this universe. This example should be followed by all, especially those who are Krishna conscious, for they should serve Krishna by their respective abilities. And there are, many times it's people have different qualities and different abilities, different financial capacities to serve, Krishna. And it doesn't mean that if somebody has less, that they can't serve Krishna, or if they have, few qualities. Just by chanting Krishna's names, that is the greatest quality. You can have nothing that you're good at, but if you can chant Krishna's names, you are the most glorified. There's stories in the Bible, of course, where, the paupers give, the woman who gives all of her pennies that she has, she's a beggar, but she gives all her money to the temple. And Krishna says she's greater than this, person who gives 10% of, even though it's millions and millions of coins, it's just a small percentage. She still has 90%. So if we give everything we have, every capability, our life, our own body, ourselves to Krishna, this is the greatest service. And that's the process of Krishna consciousness, of sadhana bhakti, is learning how to do that. So all the servants took the opportunity of rendering service to Krishna when he was personally present within the universe. This example should be followed by all, especially those who are Krishna conscious, for they should serve Krishna by their respective abilities. When the new city was fully constructed according to plan, Krishna transferred all the inhabitants of Mathura and entrusted Sri Balaram as the city father. After this, he consulted with Balaram, and being garlanded with lotus flowers, he came out of the city to meet Kalyavana, who had already seized Mathura without taking up any weapons. When Krishna came out of the city, Kalyavana, who had never seen Krishna before, saw him to be extraordinarily beautiful, dressed in yellow garments. Passing through his assembly of soldiers, Krishna appeared like the moon in the sky, passing through the assembled clouds. Kalyavana was fortunate enough to see the lines of Srivatsha, a particular impression on the chest of Sri Krishna, and the Kaustuba jewel which he was wearing. Kalyavana saw him, however, in his Vishnu form, with a well-built body, with 4 hands and eyes like newly blooming lotus petals. Krishna appeared blissful, with a handsome forehead and beautiful face, with smiling, restless eyes and moving earrings. Before seeing Krishna, Kalyavana had heard about him from Narada, and now the descriptions of Narada were confirmed. He noticed Krishna's specific marks and the jewels on his chest, his beautiful garland of lotus flowers, his lotus-like eyes, and similar beautiful bodily features. He concluded that this beautiful personality must be Vasudeva, because every description of Narada's which he had heard previously was substantiated by the presence of Krishna. Kalyavana was very much astonished to see that he was passing through without any weapon in his hand, without any chariot. He was simply walking on foot. Kalyavana had come to fight with Krishna, and yet he had sufficient principles not to take up any kind of weapon. He decided to fight with him hand to hand. Thus he prepared to capture Krishna and fight. So we talked about these different Varna systems, right? We have the Kshatriyas, who are warriors. And as I've said many times before, the warriors of the Vedic system had a strict ethic code. Now, it's not like today's day and age where you see, soldiers are torturing prisoners, or people are bombing citizens, or they just shoot whoever they can, they just enter into a system. There were so many rules. There were rules about how you fought. There were admirations from enemies to how great warriors fought towards each other. And one of the rules in ethics was that if you see your opponent with a certain weapon, it doesn't matter if you have more weapons. It's your ethic to basically put aside those weapons and fight them according to the means. That was the Kshatriya code. You had a lot of respect in that. And many things like that, where you could be fighting with your enemy, and at the end of the day, you would invite them to your house and have dinner like they were brothers, and joke and laugh, and and then the next day you'd be fighting to try to kill each other. But that was part of the Vedic system. So there was a check on anger, and anger was basically controlled to be used according to time and circumstance. And of course, this is a circumstance where Kalyavana, even though he's an enemy of Krishna and he was attacking Mathura, he could see that, Krishna is just walking with no weapon. I'll just fight him with hands. So I'll capture Krishna. Krishna, and this is another funny thing, is that if Krishna doesn't want to be captured, he won't be captured by those who don't love and serve him, but he agrees to be captured by those who love and serve him. So Kalyavana thought he was beautiful, but he knew he was an enemy, but tried to capture him because he was an enemy, not because he wanted to serve him, but because he wanted to try to kill him, right? So there's a difference. Krishna, however, went ahead without looking at Kalyavana. He's just like, Supreme Personality of God, and nobody could fight him. And Kalyavana began to follow him with a desire to capture him, but in spite of all his swift running, he could not capture Krishna. Krishna cannot be captured even by the mental speed attained by great yogis. So that's another thing, let alone great yogis who meditate for many, many years, very spiritually elevated types of yogis. What to say of atheists or mental speculators? They cannot capture Krishna. They can't understand Krishna. They can't figure out Krishna with their mind. This is impossible. You can only be captured, as it says here, he can be captured only by devotional service. That's the main point. Our loving service, Krishna agrees to be captured. Radharani, it said that Radharani owns Krishna. Krishna agrees to be owned by Radharani. She's greater than Krishna because her love for Krishna is so strong that he is completely captured by her. And Kali Yavana was not practiced in devotional service. That's the point there. He wanted to capture Krishna, and as he could not do so, he was following him from behind. So a great warrior trying to run, and Krishna is just cannot be captured. Kali Yavana began running very fast, and he was thinking, now I am nearer, I will capture him. But he could not. Krishna led him far away, and as he entered, he entered the cave of a hill. There's a twist in the story here. So they're going to a cave. Kali Yavana thought that Krishna was trying to avoid fighting with him and was therefore taking shelter of the cave. So he's thinking Krishna is trying to run away, but Krishna is actually setting it up to have another devotee of his serve him, and we'll get to that point. He began to chastise him with the following words, "Oh, you Krishna, I heard that you are a great hero, born of the Yadu dynasty of Yadu, but I see that you are verily running away from fighting like a coward. It is not worthy of your good name and your family tradition." Kali Yavana was following, running very fast, but still he could not catch Krishna because he was not freed from all contaminations of sinful life. So there's a main point here. Krishna, as we said, Krishna will agree to, but once if you have contaminations of material life, of sinful, of a desire and enviousness, you cannot capture Krishna. As Lord Chaitanya came in this day and age, we say, well, how can we be saved? How can we come to love Krishna? Well, Lord Chaitanya, in his most merciful incarnation, coming as Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radharani in service to Krishna, gave us the process in this day and age by which we can come to love Krishna. The process is the means and the goal. It's the hearing and chanting Krishna's names. The hearing and chanting of Krishna's names, even in a sinful condition, is so powerful, it's so purifying that it can eliminate so many karmic reactions in our life, so many sinful situations and envy, and give us a taste for love that we just keep practicing more and more. So then we are able to eventually capture Krishna. According to the Vedic culture, anyone who does not live according to the regulative principles of life observed by the higher castes like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and even the laborer classes called the Maleka. The Vedic social situation is so planned that persons who are accepted as Shudras can gradually be elevated to the position of Brahmanas by the cultural advancement known as samskara, or the purificatory process. So there's this idea of a Maleka being a most sinful person, but even Malekas outside of the Varna system have been purified, as in the story of Jagai and Madhai, who were the most sinful rapists, murderers, sinful people. They were, by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, be able to actually come to love Krishna. According to the Vedic culture, anyone who does not live following the regulative principles observed by the higher castes like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and even the laborer class is called Maleka. The Vedic social situation is so planned that persons who are accepted as Shudras can gradually be elevated to the position of Brahmanas by the cultural advancement known as samskara, the purificatory process. The version of the Vedic scriptures is that no one becomes a Brahmana or Maleka simply by birth. By birth, everyone is accepted as Shudra. One has to elevate himself by the purificatory process to the stage of Brahminical life. If he doesn't, he degrades himself further, and then he is called Maleka. Kali Yavana belonged to the class of Maleka and Yavanas. He was contaminated by sinful activities and could not approach Krishna. The principles from which higher class men are restricted, namely illicit, sex-indulgent, meat-eating, gambling, and intoxication, are part and parcel of the lives of the Malekas and Yavanas. Being bound by such sinful activities, one cannot make any advancement in God realization. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that only one who is completely freed from all sinful reactions can be engaged in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. When Krishna entered the cave of the hill, Kalyavana followed, chastising him with various harsh words. Krishna suddenly disappeared from the demon's sight, but Kalyavana followed and also entered the cave. The first thing he saw was a man lying down asleep within the cave. Kalyavana was very anxious to fight with Krishna, and when he could not see Krishna, but saw instead only a man lying down, he thought that Krishna was sleeping within this cave. Kalyavana was very puffed up and proud of his strength, and he thought that Krishna was avoiding the fight. Therefore, he very strongly kicked the sleeping man, thinking him to be Krishna. The sleeping man had been lying down for a very long time. When he was awakened by the kicking of Kalyavana, he immediately opened his eyes and began to look around in all directions. At last, he began to see Kalyavana was standing nearby. This man was untimely awakened and therefore very angry. And when he looked at Kalyavana in his angry mood, rays of fire emanated from his eyes, and Kalyavana burned into ashes within a moment. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 49th chapter of Krishna. Krishna erects the Dwarka fort. So we are going to stop there and read a little bit about who this strange person is that burned Kalyavana with his eyes. His name is Muchakunda, and there's a backstory in this next chapter that we will get to next time. So thank you very much. Let's chant some more, and that will be it for today. Haribo, Vitagor, Vitagor, Haribo, Vitagor, Vitagor, Haribo, Haribo, Vitagor, Vitagor, Haribo, Haribo, Vitagor, Vitagor, Haribo. Chaitanya, 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 Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare, Radhe Radhe Radhe, 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 Radhe Radhe, Gauranga 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 Haribo. Haribol. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time for another story. Namaste.